And then they just beheaded the Christopher Columbus statue in Boston.
Yeah.
Did they?
Yep.
Good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Interesting fact about Christopher Columbus: there is no documented pictorials or paintings or any imagery of Christopher Columbus, so nobody actually knows what he looks like.
Because they all hated his ass even then. Nobody want to know Christopher Columbus poetry.
Hey, aunties, it's Patrick Ladonis here in Atlanta, Georgia, creator of Scales, the web series streaming on YouTube and the On channel. And I want to know what's brewing today.
Introducing AunTea Margarita.
Ask your aunties, squashing black beef.
And Insecure, low-key lit. So get your cups ready for Minority Report.
I don't know what that was I just did.
There we go.
Hey,
Hey, community.
That's 3 weeks in a row this opening. How y'all ladies doing today?
Good.
Doing all right. Can't
Hanging in there?
complain.
Yeah. Hang in there, man.
That's so funny. Like my little view of you guys. So it's me and Kerel up top, and then you guys are at the bottom, and it's just like we're all smiles and like teeth, and then y'all are like,
It's like,
what's going on down there?
Right.
Well, at least your screen got me where I'm supposed to be.
Oh, there you go. There you have it.
What?
Oh, you said,
I got it. Okay.
Welcome, girl. Welcome. Places, everybody. Places.
I was like, wait a minute. Well, because we'll read each other. And I was like, I had to go back and like make sure, wait a minute, did she come for me this early? Damn.
Oh, well, community.
But that's right, you should be on the bottom.
Right.
Making no noises. And
don't kiss me in my mouth.
Oh my God.
And you know what? We got company. We gotta behave ourselves at the beginning. Hey, community, and if you see already, it's Pride Month, so we have another guest auntie this month or this week. Golly. Hey, Patrick.
Hey, aunties.
Hey,
And we always give our guests an auntie name. So, what is your auntie name?
I am AunTea Margarita.
Margarita.
Yes.
I like Patrick, but I don't like margaritas.
But the question is, are you salt around the rim or without salt?
Well, I start off with the salt, but then I like to lick the rim, and so I guess
salt around that rim.
She deserves to be on the bottom.
Okay, now Nicki Minaj. That is too funny. Well, thank you, Patrick, and let's get to know him because Patrick is a very special guest because Patrick is the creator, the writer, the producer, the star, all the above of Scales, the web series. And it's funny about Scales. Like when I first met Patrick was at MAAP, which is a professional gay networking organization here in Atlanta. And so I was like, oh yeah. And so we're talking. I was like, oh yeah, I do a podcast. He's like, oh, I do Scales. And so I come home and I tell Corey, I was like, oh yeah, I met a couple cool people. One, he does a web series called Scales. And he's like, oh, I've seen that.
Of course, Corey has.
Exactly. So tell us about yourself, Patrick.
Sure. Let's see. I've been in Atlanta for 20 years. Made 20 years on May 15th, I believe.
Ooh,
and
so this grow.
I have. And let's see, I am a content creator, like you said, writer, producer. This season I'll be directing actually. So I can add director to my hat.
That's awesome.
Okay, come on now.
Right.
So I'm a little excited about that. But I just, corporate guy by day and creative 24/7. So it's who I am. So that's kind of me. And I'm a Gemini. So save your judgment. Save your judgment. Save your judgment.
Right.
Okay.
Save your judgment. Save your judgment. Save your judgment.
I was about to fix my mouth, and she said, "Get it together."
Not yet. I was like, okay.
Oh, but are you a May Gemini or a June Gemini? Though there's a difference.
I'm a June Gemini.
Okay.
I'm actually on the cusp. I'm June 16th. Same as Tupac Shakur. So I'm like a few days before.
Okay, we're good with that then. you say Tupac, we good.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday then. Your birthday's tomorrow after this episode drops on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes, it is.
happy
birthday.
birthday to you.
Hey,
Hey.
to you. Happy birthday.
And Stevie, let us use that. No copyright. Thank you.
Right.
Oh, man. So Scales. So tell people about Scales. What is Scales about? If for the folks that haven't watched it.
Sure. Scales is about a guy named Remy Howard who's drawn to complicated people and complicated relationships. Mm-hmm. And it's how he balances all of that and maintain his friendship. So it's all about balance, which he has yet to accomplish. And I play Remy, one of the central character of Scales.
And it's messy, y'all.
Oh, that sounds like my life.
It's messy. It's good. So literally, I binged it like pretty much that like day or two after I met you. I was like, okay, let me see what this Scale's talking about. I don't know what he's talking about. And I was like, oh shit, I'm hooked.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you liked it.
Because they're like mini like episodes. They're like almost like what? How long are the average episode?
The average episode is about 8 minutes. When I created the show, I wanted it to be, I took a page out of Issa Rae's playbook when she did Awkwardly Black Girl. And each episode was pretty short. And then, everyone has a short attention span. So I was like, let me just follow that method of having like mini cliffhangers after each thing. And then, of course, season 1 was pretty quick and people liked it. And so if you notice, season 2 was a little bit longer. So the episode was about 10 minutes versus the 8 minutes from season 1. And
you hear that, Issa? He's adjusting for like the fans. They wanted longer episodes. We want longer episodes.
I mean, she gave us 2 more episodes though. She
read
us the film.
I'd rather get a longer season than more of an episode.
You're right on that. So how did you even get into wanting to make Scales? Like, did you just wake up one day, I'm gonna make me a web series, or is that something you've always aspired to do?
I would say that creating Scales was not something I always wanted to do, but it was, I guess you can say, in my DNA. I have been a fan of, I was the kid that enjoyed acting. So I would do a lot of plays, church plays. I grew up in Chicago, so I did a little bit of, I've done some theater, local theater. And when I was 16, I was in the movie A Time to Kill with Matthew McConaughey, Sandra Bullock, Samuel Jackson, which is very...
Matthew McConaughey, hey.
That was his like breakout role. And this was in 95. And I was the militant teenager who actually sets the KKK on fire during the big riot, which sort of plays into so much of what's going on in the world.
Right.
And I had the bug then, but then of course my parents were like, you got to go to college, And so I focused on, okay, let me get a good job then if it's meant to be or whatever. But while I was in college, I made films. I was like the little Spike Lee on campus. So I would shoot little horror films because I'm obsessed with horror films, by the way. And then I walked away from it and, went to finish college, moved to Atlanta, then went to grad school, got into that corporate 8 to 5, 9 to 5 for about 15 years. And then 2017, I was in Barcelona. August 2017, there was a terrorist attack over there while I was there. And my best friend and I were like in the streets when the van was running over people. And he said to me, this could have been us. And you keep talking about wanting to do this other stuff. You need to commit to doing it. And so on the flight back from Barcelona, it's a 8.5-hour flight. I started writing Scales. And then when I got back to Atlanta, he was like, okay, you've written it. So now you need to make this shit happen. And so I started, having auditions, and 400 people turned out, which was very overwhelming. And it's sort of like the rest is history. And I kind of feel like everything is meant to happen when it's meant to happen. And so it probably wasn't meant for me to do it when I was 16, 17, 18 in college versus the age I am now, a mature adult. And I kind of know what I want versus being easily influenced as some young actors sometimes.
And you probably know what stories you want to tell too. Then you went through some things to be able to incorporate that into your show, probably.
And just so you know, Scales is loosely based off of some real life situations.
I was just about to ask how close is it to real life? Because you said you play the main character, so I was like,
I do. So yes.
Okay,
yeah. I've gotten some DMs.
We got to watch what we say because it might end up in the show.
That's true. Very true. I've gotten some DMs from some exes like, hey, did you talk about? And I'm like, maybe. So yeah.
Right. Look, you said it's our story. Now yours are our story. Okay. I got copyright to it too.
Episode about you.
Right.
Wow, that's crazy. And I want to know what friend is that gassed you up that now you done made 2 seasons of a website. I need friends. Gas me up all day, every day. Then I write a series on an 8-hour flight.
Yeah, that's my best friend. And Chris always pushes me to do, because he's like, Patrick, you have this talent. And it sort of goes back to the whole dream deferred. What happens to a dream deferred? I think it's Langston Hughes. I don't want it to like wither up and go away. So I'm sort of now more comfortable in my own skin because real talk, when I made Scales, that was almost kind of like my national coming out because I didn't really talk about my sexuality. I mean, people that knew me, of course, yes, he's gay. And of course, the man I'm married to knew I was gay and my family did, but not outside of a certain circle. So stepping into the role, it was kind of like everybody is going to eventually see it. And everybody like, wait a minute, possibly depending on, because we do have some straight actors that are playing these same-sex loving roles, which is amazing. That was kind of my, national coming out was creating this as well. So
I like it because there's not a lot of Black LGBTQ series anywhere, let alone web series, YouTube, and things like that. So was that a conscious decision to tell those stories, or is it just like you're just writing what you know and it's become this juicy, awesome success?
It's a combination of all of that. I wanted to write from, of course, the best writing is usually from your own experiences. And, like I say, some of this is very close to home. And I wanted to explore the beauty of being whether you're, gay, queer, because we have trans, also a trans male actor, which is plays one of my best friends in the series. I wanted to explore all of that. When I was in college, I had the opportunity to spend a semester up at Brown University. And I went from an HBCU to spending a semester at this Ivy League school. Right. And I got introduced to a lot of people, and my first situation was with someone of another race. And so I wanted to explore, because you really don't see like a Black guy with an Asian guy in a same-sex loving relationship. Hence, that's why the opening scene of Scales, you see the two characters. It's a Black guy and an Asian guy. And I really wanted to tell stories of us that is representative of who we are, but it's not so, because you mentioned that there are not a lot of web series. There are actually a lot of sort of Black gay web series, but I was a little exhausted of always seeing everything built around sex. Yes, we do have sex. Sex is great. Everybody has sex. Yeah. But I didn't want to create stories that only highlight sex, because that's already what people, when they see us as, or think of, gay people, all they do is have sex. So I was like, let me show how really our lives are no different than
the
straight people or hetero norms or whatever. We all have a little messiness. We have a little drama. We're all complicated. So that's kind of what led me to wanting to tell this narrative. And I wanted to make sure that I had a diverse cast to kind of represent the world that we live in, with the exception of making Remy sort of the lead. So there's established, you do have this Black guy and this Black creative telling these stories, because we all know in Hollywood, it's not that, it's 0.4% of us that actually get a chance to tell our story. So
that part. That part. I'm sorry, I'm hogging all the questions. Y'all answer the questions. I always get so interested.
I mean, I don't have a question. honestly, like hearing your story and, you know, the meaning behind your web series Scales is actually really inspiring, motivating. Like, honestly, I mean, I kind of wish, you know, I was into acting, and, you know, I wish I was into being a producer, and I had, like, you know, that artistic side. I mean, I'm just an athlete. I'm one of them, almost like basically a dumb jock. So, you know, don't ask me, you know, to read no lines or something like that. It's gonna be stale as hell. But but no, honestly, it's just amazing. Just honestly, like you said, representation. Just being able to have the conversation with you and see and speak to someone who's actually doing something like that is just, it's really motivating today. I needed this today.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I know go ahead.
I was just curious, who are some storytellers that really speak to you right now?
Storytellers that speak to me right now, of course, I will say that anyone, Ken Olin, he's a director of This Is Us, and he came from, if you, I'm sure you're maybe my age or, you know, within my age bracket, there was a show called 30 Something, and Ken Olin used to star in 30 Something, and just his visual eye for how This Is Us connects to stories. I'm really inspired by that. James Bland, who created Giants, I love the storytelling of Giants. It's also a digital series on YouTube. I also love the creative eye of Ava DuVernay. I love what she does. And just, I look for inspiration from different films as well. Philadelphia is one of my favorite movies ever, with Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington.
I haven't seen that movie in a while.
Because again,
that's a gut wrencher right there.
What people miss about it is it was educating you about discrimination and, of course, you know, AIDS at that time. But to me, when I look at that movie, which is, I have it on my the DVR thing, it's saved, because you could say I'm an emotional cutter because I love watching it because it makes me cry every time. But it was really showing there was a level of acceptance for Denzel Washington's character that he developed towards Tom Hanks. There was a respect that was gained, and he saw that Tom Hanks was no different than he was. And for me, that is where I try to tell stories, and I'm not trying to convince people to accept who we are as Black gay men, but I'm trying to raise that awareness, and if I can do that through my storytelling by informing you or educating you that there are many facets to who we are, just like there are many facets to who we are as Black people, but there are also many facets to who we are as Black, gay, and queer, the whole spectrum of what we represent. So that is kind of the core of my inspiration of what I look for in storytelling.
What do you feel are like some of the gaps in the storytelling space? Because I love seeing stories about people of color, especially queer people of color, because we just don't see that as often. And I get really frustrated, even just with queer movies, because they always skew to the sexual part, and that it's like, if we want porn, we can get porn. Like, stop making these stupid ass movies that are not satisfying to watch. The acting is poor, it's terrible, and there are so many other really great stories to tell. And I was just curious, you know, from your perspective, you know, what do you think are some of the gaps in the storytelling space that really need to be told?
I think it's the, you know, I think when I look at, I think her name is Janet Mock, who did Pose, which that changed the whole, because for me, I'll go on record and say I'd only heard about like ballroom culture. I had no idea. You know, when I hear people talk, I'm walking for face, and I was like, "What the hell is?" I honestly didn't know what that. I didn't know what that was. And so,
and what HBCU did you go
to? I went to Tougaloo College. But we weren't. It was in the South, in Mississippi. That wasn't talked about.
So, that's a New York thing.
Yeah, it introduced me to a whole level of TV that I didn't know that was out there, but. Pose is just it. That's like that's it for us. And then you have to, you know, Hollywood on Netflix, I think it touches a little bit on it, but I want to see what I think where they miss it. I think Council of Dads on NBC is kind of starting to go there with the narrative. I think Jay August, I can't think of his last name, but I think his name is Jay August, but he plays a Black gay doctor. He's successful, and he's in a successful relationship.
Okay.
I think there are stories missing to show that normalcy in same-sex couples. I mean, I think we saw it in Modern Family, but it wasn't, I mean, let's be honest, Modern Family was a great show, but it was an all-white family. with
Right,
one
right.
adopted baby. It wasn't people of color. And I think that's what's really missing. And I think a lot of TV shows sometimes place us as a either supporting character or the funny gay character or whatnot, versus being front and center. And there's really, people say the narrative is changing, and it may be, but I think it's moving at a turtle to snail race to get there. And I think we need more people that look like us in the writer's room and that look like us on the screen, which I think that's a lot of why, hopefully, with what's happening in the world today, that those in those positions will recognize and see us. You know, I understand for sure Black lives do matter, but as well as Black trans lives, like we are all one. And we've got to stay away from that division, because just think of the magnitude of power that we would have if we truly, truly were our brother's keeper or our sister's keeper, whether that's queer or non-queer or whatever. There's just so much volume and power in that. And I think we hopefully will get to a point to where we're all that. But those are like the big key gaps that I see in media in all forms, is that we're not just the trans community imposed. There are people like you, like me, that are just, we're just here trying to either be in love, fall in love, maintain love with our significant others and ourselves. We struggle with body images.
It's a struggle.
We struggle with everything, you know? I just feel like we need that.
Yeah.
So those are some big gaps. We need that. So
that's what I enjoyed about, even though it wasn't a Black show, Schitt's Creek. The one thing as funny as it is, the one thing I thoroughly enjoyed for all seasons, they never really talked about that David was gay or that he was getting married to a guy. Like it just was, you know?
Right.
And I love shows now that hit on that, where they don't have to be the gay character and this and that. It was literally just day in, day out, he was getting married to a man. And he got married to a man. And that was it. You know? And
he did have to explain to his best friend using the different kinds of wine, which I thought was really creative. It's like, sometimes I like a red. Sometimes I like a white. Sometimes I feel like a rosé.
Exactly. But literally, that was like the biggest deal that they made out of what, 6 seasons? You know? And I thoroughly enjoy that. And I feel like the more we make it more normal, especially within the Black and brown communities, a lot of this hatred and self-hate, honestly, that's built up because we never talk about shit in our community, will start to like dissolve when you see yourself on the screen, or you see something that, it might have made me a little uncomfortable, but hold on, why am I uncomfortable? And forces you to deal with it. Then things will, like, even just the craziness of the world right now, I think just little steps like that, even within our own community, because like you said, the Black transgender, like, you see people within our own community beating them up, like talking ill on them. And it's just like, come on now, we got to be together if we're going to really make all Black lives matter in this world.
Exactly. Yep.
So COVID is kind of wrecked a little havoc of your year plans, because I knew season 3 was coming up, right? For Scales.
we were supposed to start shooting Scales back in May. May 15th was supposed to be our shooting date.
So is it pushed back until 2021, or you're just hoping there might be a slight window that you could get in there, or?
Well, you know, this comes out on Wednesday, right?
This comes out on Monday.
This comes out on Monday. All right, so spoiler alert. I told you. Give us some exclusive. So one of our characters, he plays Drew Caskell, Andrew. He's actually a nurse at Emory, and not that that means anything about what we've been doing, but we have actually been filming, and I am dropping the Scale season 3 trailer on Tuesday, June 16th, my birthday. So you guys will
tomorrow. Check that out, community. Now.
So we will have the trailer. So we've been filming, but I do want to go on record by saying what we did do is I work in, my profession, I created a entire COVID training for the cast and crew to go through. Yeah. They had to sign everything. The production team, directors, everybody wore masks. We wiped down the equipment. We did as many shots outdoor scenes that we could shoot. We did practice social distancing, except for when the actors of course, had to do their stuff together, but we also did temperature checks throughout the day while we were filming and checking. And while we had lunch, everyone had to actually practice lunch social distancing from each other. And once they finish eating, put your mask back on and you can talk and engage. But we
you can't have a bite of my sandwich.
We did start. We did start filming, and I'm excited because this season 3 is. I actually wrote. I have a co-writer that wrote this season with me because there's a certain story that I wanted to tell, and I didn't want to tell. I could tell it, but I wanted someone else who actually had experienced it. Okay. So we're really gonna talk about what bisexuality really is.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking, especially in the Black community, and it is by far, this season is it's still messy, but this season it's very real because I want people to talk about sexuality, because I think in the Black community sometimes we're afraid to talk about it.
Absolutely.
And I'm total opposite. I mean, I may come off a little reserved, but I'm just all for just being able to be free, and you love who you love.
That's when that salt comes off the rim.
And the moment that you're in, you just go. I mean, because I've been with women before, so I'm like, hey, you just do it. You just go with what your heart feels like.
You just do it.
You just do it.
Come on, Nike. Just do it.
Yeah. So season 3, everybody's kind of just doing it. They're just going where their heart leads them.
All right. Okay.
I'm here for it.
So wait, do we have a premiere date then?
We have we're playing around with the premiere date because we'll have everything ready by the fall.
Okay.
But we normally have our premiere at the Gathering Spot. In season 1 and season 2, we've had about 300 people. But of course, because we're in COVID, I really don't want to do that. And so we're trying to do multiple premiere, like multiple sessions where we allot like maybe 50 people or 40 people come in and they do this seating different to see it or not. But we're looking at like a November premiere for everyone to see in Atlanta, but it may be just limited to about 75 people this time around.
Well, so you saying we're gonna be on the VIP list, right? We're gonna be up in there, right?
Of course. I get the exclusive here. Of course. Absolutely.
Oh Lord.
Absolutely.
Well, you're gonna hang out with us for a little while. I know you have he's booked and busy, y'all. Booked and busy. So he has a hard stop here a little later in the episode. But thank you for joining us, and you're gonna hang with us for a little while, right?
I'm all here for sure.
All right.
Okay, Auntie Margarita.
I know that's right. Well, I guess maybe we just hop on into it then. Maybe we hop into Ask Your Aunties, right?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. What time is it?
Ask
your
auntie.
Oh, man. And you know what? Today's Ask Your Aunties is perfect timing because you kind of started hitting on it when you were talking a little bit earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's meant to be for you to be here today. So earlier this week, or I guess it would be last week once the episode comes out, we put a post up that said, "Black men squash all beefs." And we had a community member, hey Rashad.
Hey Rashad.
Hey Rashad.
Responded to this and he said, "Aunties, this would be a great Ask Your Auntie. I've been mulling over this all morning. Us Black men need to be united. We are under attack. But some folks are messy as hell. Some of us have achieved peace despite not clearing the air. Is the show of solidarity worth reaching out to old thorns?" Mr. Never Let It Go.
No, I was going to say, Miss Never Let It Go.
I am. I'm the auntie that's hashtag never let it go. Hashtag never let it go. I guess for me personally, I think you can come to a sense of like forgiveness without having to verbally have a conversation with it. You can just have yourself, I'm done with it moment. You talk to yourself say, huh? and we good. And you move on. I don't think you need to do the whole let's have a conversation about it, because at the end of the day, the other person can still not agree with you or whatever the difference is, and then you'll end up just fighting even more about it. So I think part of just forgiveness is just learning to let it go for you personally, and just let the other person, if they want to hold on to it, then you let them be, you know, you let them do them. But I think you can personally let things go without it still having an effect on you. And I'm a big fan of, like, you know, that saying, like, you know, you give people power if you allow them to dictate your emotions like that. I'm one of those people, like, absolutely not. If if it's bothering me, that means you got control over an aspect of my life that you don't deserve and you shouldn't have. So I'm gonna figure it out at some point to let it go. However, you won't get a second chance. That's where the hashtag never let it go comes in. But I ain't gonna pull up on you. I ain't gonna be waiting for you outside. I just be like, you know what? Kick rocks.
What do you think of Dewan?
I cut 2 people off in the last 2 weeks. So I'm not just on some different kind of energy right now when it comes to like relationship.
Black people?
Black men? No.
Okay.
No, one black, one not.
Okay.
But I'm just on some different kind of energy right now. So my professional answer.
Come on, HR. Come on, HR answer.
My professional answer is, at the end of the day, you have to do what your spirit tells you that's good for you. So if you are in a space where you've been holding on to something and you're ready to let that go and you're ready to have a conversation, whatever that conversation needs to be, then just live in the spirit of that authenticity and just have the conversation that you feel that you need to have, for you, not for them, not for anybody else, but for you. That's my official answer. And if you don't, and if you feel like keeping that same energy, you feel like, you know, they was there for a reason in a season, then, you know, the season is gone and we're on to something different, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's my HR answer. My today answer is, let the past be the past. Let the past be the past. You know, every situation has that you've encountered has built you to be the person that you are today. And sometimes that means that there's space in your life for rekindling things. Oftentimes it's not. It's for building you to move on to do other things. And so, you know, I'm just on that cut it energy right now. There's so much stuff going on in life.
Cut it. You need to cut it.
There's just so much stuff going on in life right now. And I get Black unity. But at the same time, Black unity doesn't have to come at the expense of inviting discord and destruction into your life and around you. And if that's what that person brings, whether it's for you specifically or within your circle, you don't need it. We can be united but not be together.
Okay. What you thinking, Margarita?
I am more so with Auntie Hennessy.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that you can actually you let it go. You definitely don't seek revenge. I used to believe in seeking revenge, but you have to let it go. But
that's like Gemini coming out.
It is. It really is. But I mean, I get it. I mean, you should, you know, they have the power where you do let it go, you know, and just, I think we're going to talk about it a little bit, but like this season, the season of Insecure, like Molly and Issa, that literally was my 2019 with a very, very best friend of mine of 20 plus years. So this whole thing is playing out. It's playing out like my whole, I almost got in an Uber Sunday night and started crying because I was like, this was my whole 2019. But I get it. So yeah, I get it.
You know, and I guess I'm kind of slightly different, of course. I guess I've never had, I know, right? I'm always the whatever one. I don't think I've ever had a beef that was just so all-consuming that I had to cut off. Like, I guess, and it used to drive my parents crazy. It used to drive a lot of people crazy. Nothing really bothers me too bad. Like, I care about, like, civil rights. I care about like transgender rights, LGBT and stuff like that. I get riled up for stuff like that. But like personally, I don't think I've ever really given too many people the energy to consume me like that. Like if you want to act a fool over there. I'm cool over here, and I'm good to kind of go. And so like when I saw this black man squash all beef, I kind of thought of it as the perspective that even if I did have some kind of beef, at least in this time period, if I saw someone walking down the street that I had beef with and the cops are going after them or whatever, I'm going to help them out because there's already so many people against us right now. So fuck everything we have between us right now. I'm going to help your ass out, you know? I'll give you that smoke later or whatever. But right now, you're not about to do this to any black dude around me. You're not, you know, because we're literally already in survival mode. And like, even though we've been in survival mode our whole lives, like right now is such a time that like we finally have the attention of a lot of people that it's like, okay, let's squash that for now. There's a greater goal, I guess. And I always kind of just think of things of greater goals. It's just like, yes, I could be petty with the best of them. I could be shady with the best of them, but I'm not going to let that affect the greater goal. So if I need to squash something, I'm going to squash it because I see the greater goal in us squashing it because it's now going to help XYZ. It's going to help the situation. It's going to help whatever it may be. So that's kind of always been my energy. I completely get there's been a lot of people that have tried it the last few weeks. Absolutely tried it. But even then, I'm like, okay, let me cool out. But and then try to come back in a way that hopefully they think slightly. Does it work every time? Not at all. But I always say I just don't got the time. Like I really don't have time for beef and shit. Let's talk. Either you want to talk about it or you don't. If you don't, go over there because I got shit to do. Like that's literally the energy I've always tried to be on, and even especially now, because it's just like there's so much going on. I've even been even more hyper focused on like I've got shit to do. I have a voice. I truly believe it, and that might be the PK coming out of me, but it's just like my parents have always just told me just like you got a purpose here. People will try to distract you all the time, like all the time. That's life.
But what kind of beef are we talking about? Are we talking about like? Talking about? Hold on, let me ask the question. Like, are we talking about Joe and what's her face in Florida? Tiger Joe, what's his name?
Oh, Tiger King.
And
Joe, what's his?
Carol Baskin.
Thank you. Yeah. Are we talking about that kind of beef where it's just like beef for nothing? Or are we talking about serious beef for like, you know, you just, cause like, I'm a Leo and what that means is I ride and die hard for my people. You know, but if you disrespect me or take me for granted and you don't appreciate what we're doing and you disrespect our relationship, it's a wrap. There ain't even no conversation. There's nothing for us to talk about. Psh, you gone. It's a wrap.
See, I mean,
so like for me, like the beef is that moment right there when I'm assessing, is this a deal breaker? Because if it's a deal breaker, it's a wrap. There's nothing left for us to talk about.
Like for
I think that's subjective, though. I think that's subjective, though,
that's why I'm asking the question.
But the answer is, I think it's subjective because I think we all kind of have our own breaking point. You know, I think we all kind of have our moments where like something that may be too much for you may be just right for me. You know,
and it might not even be on your radar.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I honestly may just give zero fucks about it. And so for me, right. And honestly, I think that's kind of how a lot of conflicts also happen too. You know, often than not, like there's one person who do something who wasn't even thinking about how it may affect someone else, but the other person is just pissed off. And then it's all about how to navigate, you know, and bounce back from that.
And a lot of times people don't, what you find is there's beefs out there that people don't even know they're in a beef. Like you ain't said shit. All you either ghosted and you're just like, okay, that person ghosted and I'm on about my day and you over here stewing or whomever's over here stewing. It's just like communicate. We preach communication so much on this podcast. And it's just like, I find like, to me, a beef is if you stole something from me, you try to kill me, like you try to hurt my family, like that's beef. Like Notorious B.I.G., he said, what's beef? Beef, yeah. So that to me is beef. Like petty shit, that's because either people don't want to communicate or they've never addressed the feelings, and a lot of times it's not even about you. It's about shit they haven't even dealt with. So
Are you guys the type? Are you guys the type, or would you guys say something if you feel like you're having a beef or having a moment with someone where they cross you? Are you the type to say something, or would you prefer just not to say something? You kind of shut down and you'll wait for them to read the room or to read the situation.
I'll say I'll address it and be like, okay, what's the problem? And so I'm such about like, okay, what's the problem? So we can move on. There's bigger shit. And so especially like this question, I'm like, there's bigger shit right now. For me to be expelling my energy on petty beef, like they're literally killing us right now. And you want to talk about XYZ? Like I scuffed your Puma? You know, so that's like at least the energy I'm on right now. It's like, I could deal with the petty stuff later, the smaller stuff. Yes, it might be bigger to other people. So I agree. Like Jerrell, you're saying there might be moments where that line where that literally is destroying them. And for another person, is nothing on their radar. But I think it's up to whoever has that beef to get it off one way or the other. You know, let's talk about it or not.
For me, a lot of it depends. Go ahead. You're the guest.
No, I know. I was
just
going to say,
on talking.
Auntie Vaca, I totally understand. I guess as we're talking about this, my head is still going to the insecure storyline that's happening and my real life connection with this. I think it depends on the level of the beef. And I mean, like, because of the outcome, which this 20 plus year friendship is now sort of dissolved. Yeah. It's kind of like me letting it go, me accepting it was me squashing the beef, because I don't think we're at a point where we could even come together to have a conversation unless I'm able to express myself at the level I need to express myself, which I don't feel that individual will be able to handle, because I'm going to come at you at a level, because the thing about me, and
so you
it's
still care
tradition.
For that person, honestly.
Of course, I do.
Accepting what you have to say.
And that's why I won't, because my reads will make you commit. You'll slice your wrist. So it's like,
okay, Gemini.
So you make that decision to just, I had to accept that, this friendship has run its course,
right?
And I don't think you can revisit the beef. So I mean, it's complicated.
Even in this environment,
even in this environment. And now don't get me wrong, I thought about picking up the phone, but it literally was like that insecure moment where I was like, I'm not gonna do it, because I'm always the person that picks up the phone or send the text message. And I said, you know what, I'm in a different space now. And I was just like, I'm not even gonna do it. And now a whole year has passed, and I'm just like, you don't miss me, I miss you, but I'm okay with us not being in each other. Maybe it took 20 plus years and we have gone in two different directions. And I'm like, I don't think we could ever come together the same way, because I don't think that person will be able to deal with me unloading what I really want. It's everything is just on surface. So I don't think we can ever.
Would it surprise you if they did? Like, because this is my therapy talking to me now, because like when Corey and I were in therapy, I'm putting all my business out there. The one thing that I think I took away from it most is like, sometimes we act or communicate in ways where we think they can't handle it, but then in reality they can. And it's always like, that's what's causing that friction, is because you're trying to walk on eggshells and not communicate the way you really want to say. You want to say what you want to say, but you're holding on to their feelings instead of caring about your feelings, kind of deal.
I don't know. I can't speak for you. I'm sorry. But I understand where you're coming from, because I think what Margarita's saying is more so of like, what he has to say will hurt his feelings. And I think right. And I think he's being more polite and more caring in the situation, actually about the other person's feelings than his own.
There's
did I read the room correctly?
You read the room.
Okay, just making sure.
There's an undertone of communication that we avoid talking about, which is you also have to be in a place where you can articulate yourself in a way that is respectful. Because if your form of communication is I'm going to go in on somebody, there's still unresolved emotion and unresolved stuff that is not, because that kind of action, and this is not being placed because like I deal with this all the time. I have to take a break. Like, caveat, if you are important for me or important to me, then I'll have to either take a break, sort through my emotions and figure out what it is that I want to say, how I want to say it, and how I can deliver that message in a way that we can get the best possible result. If I am not and if you don't mean anything to me, it's a wrap. Like I'll just cut you out or I'll cut you off. Like it's like one of those two. But if you mean something to me, then I have to take a step back, because what I realize is it's more important for me to be really crystal clear about what it is that I feel. Why do I feel that? What do I want? And how can we move forward? And I should be able to articulate those things in a way that allows us to have a meaningful conversation that can get us both. At least I can express it in a way that allows us to move forward. If I can't, and this is just me talking, if I can't do that, then I'm not ready for the conversation. It has nothing to do with them and whether they're ready to receive it or whether they can hear the message in the way that I'm going to be delivering. It's about me. And so I think that, we have to assess, and that's why I gave kind of like my HR answer in the beginning, is like, you have to think about what your spirit is telling you. And if your spirit is telling you that you are in a place where you are ready to have that conversation, devoid of all of these emotions that will take it to a whole different other place or make it worse. But if you're in a place where you can have a conversation constructively, that's a great place to start from. If you can't, and it is, like you said, if there's a year that goes by, 10 years that goes by, you're not ready, boo.
I mean, sometimes I think I'll be ready, and then that person say one motherfucking word and throw that shit out the fucking window.
All out.
Like,
right.
I'm ready. I'm gonna make time today. We're gonna go all the way there and back, round fucking trip, okay? Like,
well, Auntie Chardonnay, I actually, the thing is that because I am a creative, I journal and I wrote out my feelings. And I've even thought about when I reach out to this person.
Did you press so hard? Did you rip the page? I just want to know.
No, because the thing is, my writing game is crazy. So I've written a poem about this situation. I could deliver the poem to you, or I could deliver the story to you, because I'm a person, I'm very analytical. I like to examine cause and effect and what could have been done. I like to examine everything. And because, I would love to really have this conversation, because you guys each bring a different point of view, but I'm not going to have it on this platform. So maybe we can schedule something so I can really
completely understand that.
I can tell you the whole entire situation, but it's so many levels. Yeah, it's so many levels to the scenario to what happened as to. Right. There's no, I can say it calmly, but the thing is, I don't think the other person is ready to handle the conversation, because my level of communicate, because I'm big on communication, of expressing the whole situation, I kind of think subconsciously they kind of don't want to hear it, because if they hear it, and then for me, because to go into, I'll just say legally, I always believe in keeping receipts. I have receipts.
Oh my goodness.
I have Exhibit A, Exhibit B, and then
y'all Real Houses of Atlanta be killing me.
No, to hand. I have receipts. I have receipts to back up the situation. Right. So therefore, because I have those receipts, I think they're afraid. Yeah. They don't want to know these receipts, because these receipts would then really make them take a deeper look at themselves and
they don't want to do the
other
part.
Individual that contribute to this breakdown of our relationship.
Right. I think one thing that I like to encourage people to take away, especially from this Ask Your Auntie, is, you can avoid a lot of this if you focus on protecting your vibes, protecting those, watching who you keep around you. Like, everybody can't be in your circle. The circle has a limit for a reason. And the more you add, the greater the pollution can be. So you got to be very cautious of who you bring around in your circle, because some people are undercover and they will try to bring you down for certain reasons, or they may have characteristics that you may not even know about them that are triggering to you. So just be mindful about your energy and your vibes and those people who do not bring the same thing to the table. And it's okay to
say that
kind of have like an interview with people and be like, okay, so who you is, where you from, what you do, how crazy you are on a scale of 1 through 5, and pay attention to a person's, to a person's actions. Let a person's actions speak louder than their words, because they will show you who they are. Like, real
this
talk.
is one of the reasons why I'm really happy that Issa is exploring the complexity of more adult relationships, and it's not so cut and dry. And she's exploring like what that experience, because I think a lot of us can really relate to those kinds of complexities in our own relationships. Growing up in your teens into your 20s, I think things were a lot easier because you're experimenting and you cast a wide net and you have a lot of friends or whatever. But I think as you get older, you start to mature and you start to understand what is important to you, not just things you want to try, but things that are important for you.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes crystal clear. It becomes clearer, let's put it that way, because she's in her 40s, so things are crystal clear right now. But it becomes clearer who within your sphere of influence and in your life that are aligned with your life's journey and where you're headed and where your spirit is taking you. And it becomes abundantly clear those people that are not in alignment, those people that are jealous, that are messy, that are crazy. And I use those adjectives in a way that describes the destructive things, because yes, we have friends that are messy and crazy and blah, 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 that are fun to be around. But those that are causing chaos in your life and causing strife for you personally and interpersonally within your relationships, then we start to evaluate, now I have to think about how I'm going to handle this situation. And that's where these things come in. When we talk about like beefs and whatnot, it's like, okay, are we talking about something that's like a petty beef that's like, oh, you guys have been dogging on each other because, you're wearing the same outfits and blah, 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 blah. And this really isn't like, this isn't serious. This is like, this is school beef or whatever. Right. Or are we talking about something that's really serious, like character flaws or, destructive behavior or, abusing trust within the context of a relationship. Like these are things that are, that offends a person's values, their core values in such a way that they have to now reassess whether or not they want to spend time around you. And that's a whole different kind of conversation.
I agree. Well, I think the last line of the question is a show of solidarity worth reaching out for old thorns. I would say the only time I personally, like if the season's already gone and things like that, because I'm a big believer in seasons as well. Like people are here for seasons. They're not here for very few people are here for the whole duration of your life.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. But I would say I would reach out in a sign of solidarity when I see them in strife. And like that's saying, like, if there is something as big and bold as like a George Floyd situation, I got you back now. Fuck the beef. I got you back. Or, and I don't know, I'm trying to think of and imagine stripes, but like, I think that's when I personally would go out of the way and say, okay, you know what? I see this person and I have a skill set to aid you to make sure that you do not have this huge strife in your life anymore. Okay, I would actually think about it. I would reach out, and that's just how I am. A lot of this shit just doesn't bother me. So it's hard for me to say a lot of this stuff because you could ask my parents and growing up, they're like, why doesn't that bother you? I'm like, why? Why does it have to bother me? That used to be my question back to a lot of people. It's like, why does it have to bother me? Doesn't mean I'm not interested. Doesn't mean I'm not going to have you back, this and that. But a lot of this shit, I just try not to put too much shit on myself because it's not mine. So a lot of times it's not mine. And I always try to think of a bigger goal. I really do. So, but especially now in this season, if I had a beef with somebody and I saw you in strife, especially with the Black Lives Movement, I got you, black man, because everybody else coming at you right now, and I'm not going to add to it. So we appreciate the Ashy Aunties. Continue to send these in. You could DM us. You could comment on the post. You could send it to aya@minorityReport.com, and we'll answer it on an upcoming episode. So
I feel like we might as well get into. I was gonna say we might as well get into Insecure. Yeah, absolutely. Because we've all been talking about it here and there with from everything. So
and we missed it last week, and
we did miss it last
episode
week.
2 weeks ago might have been the best episode of Insecure out of the whole series for me. Like the black love that they showed, the way it was lit, the way they intertwined the humor, the shots that they chose. I was like, come on, Insecure.
Yeah.
It was everything to me. Especially the 2 episodes ago for sure, but then even the latest one, I'm trying not to confuse people because this will come out after the season
the season finale.
So the one that I really enjoyed was the episode with Issa and Lawrence, and they kind of went on their date and everything like that. And
perfect.
it literally was like the most perfect piece of TV I had seen in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then even the episode, that one was written by the lady that plays Kelly, by the way, on that, Natasha.
Okay.
Her last name. And then the episode after that was directed by Kerry Washington. And she probably pulled out the best acting that I've seen them do on this series. And so I was like, man, Insecure, y'all, woo! Right when I couldn't think it could get better, they got better.
So how do we want to tackle this? Do we want to just do a round robin on themes, or do we want to take episode by episode? Because we got 2.
Maybe episode by episode. And I'm really interested, Patrick, just since you create TV. Like, what do you notice in these episodes that we might not see?
I think I'm sure you guys probably see it too, but just the way they shoot the show is they sort of play to the fact that these characters are I'd say a beautiful color of brown in their skin color. Like if you notice the imagery, there's a lot of colors. You see a lot of colors, and whether it's they use food or there's something that gives you that imagery of elements of just look at this beautiful chocolate skin in the midst of, it's like you're watching a painting. And that's how I always look at the episodes. And then of course the music to me, like I always ask Siri, what's this song? What's this song?
Right?
Because the music too sets the perfect backdrop. And I think for like when I watch it, I 2 things. I have to be careful when I watch Insecure because I try to make sure that I don't like let the idea of the show pop in my head and it goes into my writing. But I will go on record. Let me go on record. I'm plugging this. In Scales, season 1, I was the first one with an Asian bae before Insecure came out. I'm just gonna throw it out there. But just the way the use of color, I like the way they shoot the show because they've always highlighted, and it's not even LA, it's like Black LA that they showcase, or Inglewood, or I think some areas looks like Baldwin Hills a little bit, but it's all of the mix of that. And then if you really, and to me sometimes if you really, really look at it, they're showing us like Black love. Like they're showing you this, they're playing it perfectly because they're showing you black love, but they're showing you a little bit of the quirky awkwardness that plays into a different audience of maybe another race too, despite the fact that we're awkward too. But that is why Black and white people of all colors can connect with Insecure. So for me, I look at it for, of course, the amazing story, Black love, the imagery, the colors, the use of color. And even if you look at like the last step, well, I know we'll talk about Issa sort of, her colors are showcasing, I always look at color to tell a story. And then you look at Molly's color. Molly had on like the really, is it turquoise blue, and then Issa had on yellow and red. And if you watch that, like that really shows up good on our colors. And I just think everything with the eggs cracking and you're seeing the food, all of that contributes to painting around being Black and beautiful in different colors. Just like what you have on Auntie Hennessy with that sort of that color you have on, that pink against your skin, it looks good and it just pops even on screen. And that's something too, you know, going back to Scales, a little shameless plug. We really tried to do, and it's playing into color. Like season 1, I tried to evoke Remy's emotion based upon the type of clothes that he was wearing.
He wears a lot of yellow, I've noticed.
Right. So it was
Which
the
is my
yellow.
favorite color.
Yellow is because he was coming out of this whole bad situation. But then when the breakup happened in the final episode, he was wearing all black because he was now going to be mourning the end of this perfect happiness and whatnot.
I like that.
Huh. So we play with color, and I see that they like to do that. And I try to study the different people that direct Insecure, and I follow those people to see where they get their ideas from or other projects they've done, because I'm inspired by that. So that's enough. I'm rambling, but I love the colors. The colors and imagery of this Black love is what I
think it was great, because I noticed that too, like 2 episodes ago when they first went on their date, and they went to the little pop-up art thing that they hadn't been to in forever. And there was a scene where it was a backdrop and it was red, half of it was red and the other half was blue. And they both stood in one, and they were still just very beautifully lit at the same time. You know, like, so often you would see, you know, people of color, especially Black folks in shows, get, you know, washed away. Yeah, you know, and you can't see them, and you're like trying to turn up the brightness on your TV, like, I can't see us, like, where are we at? You know, so I agree. I noticed that too. Me personally, for the last 2 episodes, I've really liked just the storytelling, like you said, of like just how real it is. And also I like the storytelling, like the storyline of, you know, you think you may have closed a chapter or a door to one thing, but it may just be on pause. You know, like there could always possibly be room for something to reopen. And I really like how they're not rushing it, you know, and they're trying, you watch them navigating between old feelings and the new feelings, because they don't want to get wrapped up in the old at the same time. So I really just enjoy that part. And I'm still on the whole, like, what the hell is happening with Molly and Issa? Because when Molly fucked up and sent her that text message, was like, see, I'm trying. I was like, I was glad that Issa got up and left, because I was like, because had she would have stayed there, I'd have been like, you know what?
See, that's beef.
No, right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And it really upset me more when Molly, and maybe she's just, again, she has not had a lot of relationships to begin with. So I think this is still, you know, kind of new feelings to navigate how to act this way, you know, with someone that you care about. But she still has not acknowledged her own issues with it. Like, she thought, oh, like that text message wasn't a big deal. Like, you know, I'm like, and you see Andrew being like, well, you could have said something too. Like, oh, girl, Molly's irking my nerves. She is working my last nerves. But at the same time, I get it, because there are a lot of people out there who just don't know. So I try to give people who don't know the benefit of the doubt, something that I know, because I can't expect you to be on the same page as me if you don't know what I know.
I love that they're playing with this concept of duality. At least that's what I've been picking up on. So, like, they're playing with it in 2 ways. One, there's the physical space that exists between people. So if you'll notice, when you go back and rewatch the episodes, or, you know, watch the finale, when there are people that have conflict, they're further apart on the scene. And as you see, this is true with, you know, with Issa and anyone else that she's having trouble with, that's inclusive of Molly, that's been inclusive of Lawrence, that was inclusive of Lawrence and Condola when they were both in the kitchen. So they're using physical space as a way to show duality of 2 people on 2 totally different ends of a conversation, or in 2 different places in a relationship. But then they're also paralleling the duality between the relationship that Issa is having as it's evolving and changing with Molly versus how it's evolving and changing with Lawrence. And so it has this whole energy, and they set it up really nicely in the very beginning. It's like, how the hell do they even think to do this? But they gave us this will they, won't they vibe with that duality for the whole season. So we came into the season not even knowing that there was going to be beef with Molly, because, you know, that was a shocker when she said that, you know, in the very first episode, you know, but then there's always been this will they, won't they thing with Lawrence. So now they're showing those parallels happening at the same time, and Issa's caught right smack dab in the middle of it. And it's just like, Oh, it's so good.
It's so
And it's
good.
so frustrating and it's so amazing. And you're on the edge of your seat the entire episode. Like, okay, you know, they're all sitting down and you know, at Molly and Asian Bay's place, and they're like having their little fun, whatever. Okay, they're feeling the vibe, and then something comes in to fuck it up.
Yeah.
You know, so I love that like duality that just keeps happening. And then I also love the fact that they're playing with this idea that, you know, that no matter how far you think you progress in your maturity and life and success and whatever, there are always going to be these things that are going to gnaw at you and going to try to pull you back into old behaviors. And you see Molly and Issa both struggling with those same things. So I'm just really curious to see like how, you know, well, by the time this episode airs, we will have seen how this played out. But I'm really curious to see how things play out in terms of how they left them, especially with, you know, Issa and Nathan versus Issa and Lawrence, because that's a whole other thing.
And it's interesting that the duality you're talking about, even the bipolar story with Nathan, which I'm glad they're hitting on mental health awareness in this show, because they just know their platform now within the Black community. Love that they're touching on that, but that's another kind of duality moment for you where he's struggling with his bipolarness and should I tell people, should I not? And okay, I'm good now, and I'm actually happy that I found out what's wrong with me because I was going crazy not knowing. That's interesting on the duality, even like you said, like, and then I think
it was fascinating. It was fascinating in that conversation between Nathan and Issa in his kitchen when he shared that with her, because you can tell that the writers did not intentionally made a choice not to make that a big part of the show and make it a big deal, but they wanted to be part of the story. But then you could also tell that in Issa's mind, that made a difference.
Yes.
Because if you think about the context of their relationship up until the time that he ghosted, he was everything she needed.
Yeah.
It was everything that she needed at that point, and everybody was rooting for that. And then that happened. It's like, wait a minute, what the hell? And then when that realization happened, when he shared that information about himself with her, she had this moment to really kind of, what I perceived, and maybe you guys perceived it differently, but this moment to kind of like check her own historical Black biases against people that have mental health issues, because that's a very real thing in the Black community. And so she had a choice to make, like, oh, am I going to either A, make light of it, B, be sympathetic and change my thinking, or C, be, you know, upset and frustrated and in her own thing. And she chose that B route, that she was sympathetic. You know, she felt for him. It completely changed her view of him, which is now setting up kind of what we'll see, hopefully, in the next episode, how that's going to shake out for the next season.
Yeah.
AunTea Chardonnay, I want you in our writer's room. You need to be in our writer's room. We need you in our writer's room. You're good. That was good.
It's funny, even as heavy as these topics are, they still find those moments of hilarity, you know? Like and it's such a Black moment too, like okay, Rice-A-Roni. And
yeah, you know, you staked your claim already. Right, we hamburger helper over here.
Like those little nuggets are everything to me, because I'm like, they see us, they see the way we talk, they see the way we joke, they see, you know, and I'm like, golly, this show is everything to me.
Can I give one more observation, and it might not be a popular one? I have sympathy for Molly. I have a lot of sympathy for Molly, and I know that it's not like the most popular.
AunTea Margarita said, "Look, she took that."
That's okay. That's okay. I have sympathy because she's broken, and one of the things that she's coming to terms with, and if you'll remember, when she and Asian Bay on their last day before they left vacation. You know, she called her doctor, you know, her therapist or whatever, to schedule an appointment. And so we get to see, and through a very different lens, you know, someone who is broken, but they don't see it yet. And so it's really interesting. And I'm not saying that I'd agree with what she's done. I don't agree with, like, you know, I don't think that her behaviors were, you know, whatever, you know, but it's interesting because she is a broken woman too. And for someone who has achieved a certain degree of success, She's had, you know, to rely pretty much on her own to be independent. If you look at, like, you know, when she spent time with her family and like where their stations are in life and whatnot, she's, you know, she's the lawyer. She's the one that's making money. She's living at that she has a nice, you know, apartment in the middle of downtown LA and da 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 da. She's built a life for herself that for all intents and purposes, and through the spectrum of like growing up Black in America, would dictate that she should be happy, and she's not. And there are certain things that are outside of, you know, her circumstances that are eating away at her brokenness that she's still navigating through. And I love that we get to see that, and we get to react viscerally to, you know, her expression of her own point of view, even though it's narrow-minded and it's not right. But also you get to see these nuggets of her starting to come to terms with the fact that there's some shit in me that I have been avoiding and I haven't been dealing with. And whether that results in, you know, me having a greater or worse or no relationship with Issa, my best friend, I still need to figure that out. And I think that's an interesting story that they're starting to uncover for a lot of people. So.
I hear
Yeah,
you.
I mean,
I just want that teal outfit. That teal jacket with that teal turtleneck. And she walked in and I was like, come on. Like, the outfits this season have been great.
Yeah.
Like,
they
they must have got some more
yes.
coin from HBO. Thank you, HBO. They got that coin money, man. But I can't wait for this finale. We'll talk about it next week.
I'm sad. I'm sad.
I'm sad too, because
I'm so sad.
How is it 10 episodes already?
That's the same thing I said. Because that tells you 10 weeks have gone by already.
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
Man, Travis, what the fuck?
We need 10 episodes from here on out. Like, it allowed them to tell the stories a little deeper than they were able to with a whole nother hour. But it's just like they were able to kind of really take us on this path this season that with 8, I don't think they would have been able to as succinctly as this season has been.
They wouldn't have been able to explore to the degree that I think would have been satisfying for us as viewers.
Absolutely. It would have been a little rough.
They would have had to leave some things on the table and might not have made it into next season.
Could you imagine not having these last 2 episodes? I
can't.
You know, it's literally 2 of the best episodes they've had.
I mean, they could have ended on last week's episode. And that would have been an amazing cliffhanger going into, like you know what I mean?
That would have been right.
What is this finale going to be then? Exactly. That could have been the ending. Damn, what they got for us?
Right. Because if you think about what a finale is supposed to be, like, especially if you're coming back next season, it's supposed to give you some degree of closure in some instances, but then also tease your audience enough, leave them with enough juice so that they are literally on the edge of their seats and cannot wait for the next season. Like, that's what you want. And they kind of gave it to us in episode number 9.
So damn, 10 about to be crazy. 10 about to be crazy. Yeah. We're gonna find out that baby ain't Tiffany's husband. That's what we're gonna find out. I keep saying that. But anyway, before you get out of here, I know you got to run. However, I do need to talk to you about this voting situation in Atlanta and what you think we can do to be prepared by November, because you and I both were in those lines yesterday or last week at this point. Yeah. I was in line for 2.5 hours and I got there at 7:04 a.m. You said you were in the line for how long?
I was in line for 3 hours and 4 minutes.
Wow.
4 minutes.
This is insanity. And I do, and I want to give both sides of that. The pros. I do like the new system. The new computer systems are awesome. Mm-hmm. And the way the checks and balances of it is like you vote and then it gives you a printout and you could check again that whatever was in the computer printed out on your piece of paper. Awesome. Yes. However, after that is where I think a lot of the bottleneck happens. They only have one little machine that you feed in all these pieces of paper to. And it takes a good 30 seconds for it to read. So you could get done voting, get your little piece of paper, you give it to a person, and they feed it into this big kind of almost, I don't know what to call it, like copy machine.
A ballot box.
Like it's a big contraption. And it counts your ballot. Awesome. But you're standing there. So that's one bottleneck. First thing in the morning, how are your systems already not working? At 7:04, you opened at 7 a.m. 4 minutes in, everything's down already, which tells me they're not training you enough, the state. So it's still Brian Kemp, who was the lieutenant governor 2 years ago with Stacey Abrams and all that craziness. Now here you are, the governor of Georgia, and we're still having issues with our voting systems.
Yeah.
And you're not in a rush to do anything because what is happening in the communities of color or the more liberal sections of the city are the ones that were having more of the issues yesterday. So it's just like, okay, what do we do, Patrick, from like we both have voices now kind of within the city. What do we do to make sure that our communities are able to vote fast enough and everything come November? And who do we need to talk to make sure this shit is all right come November?
You know, that's a tough question just because, how do I say this and not, it's a tough question on several, because looking at where my voting precinct was, you're right. It was more of a liberal area because it's black, white, it's evenly mixed. There was probably a lot more white people in line with me voting. But I think where the narrative goes a little awry is that you have poll workers, specifically I know at my precinct, that probably are not the most tech savvy. They were, not to put ageism in the factor, but you have people there that probably don't have an Instagram account or Facebook account. Right, so when you have those kind of issues happening, they don't really know what to do. And you got that one person that may know trying to work on 6 different machines when you have massive lines. So I think, I think for what we can do is, like Rihanna said, pull up. We got to try to encourage ourselves or younger people to take those poll working jobs. I think they pay like $75 for that day. They're in college, maybe have those techies or maybe partner with some of our Morehouse and Spelman colleges, a partnership with the voting precinct, have them be a part of that. So I think it's a bigger conversation with our local NAACP, with just local people promoting that kind of partnership to have younger people to help, because I think what we're seeing now, the younger people are these movers and shakers driving what's happening with these protests. A lot of them are at the forefront of it. And I think that's what needs to happen. So
I wonder if there's like a way to like sue the government for, their lack of accountability and, them not technically doing their job, because this should be an American right to be able to vote. And it seems like they're not providing, and this, I mean, I'm sure this is in other areas too, but I especially see this a lot in Georgia with a lot of my friends who were just voting last week too. But like, that sounds ridiculous that you have to wait 2 hours or 3.5 hours to vote. Like it should be an American right to be able to. And if the government can come up with a fucking way to send people who live in a different fucking country the way to, can give them and send them their absentee voting while they're in a whole different fucking country, there's no reason why we can't figure out how people to be able to vote in our own goddamn country. Like, like that makes 0 sense to me.
And it was weird too, because like you saw other sections of the city, of the region, have like no one there. And so it's just like, how, like, how, Sway? Like, how? And so here I am in East Atlanta, and it was probably mixed. It was maybe 50% black, 50% white or other. And it was maybe only 50 people in front of us at that too. And you're just like, this is so mind-boggling to me. And if it was that crazy for a primary, I just know how crazy it's going to be in November. Absolutely. And so it's just like, for me, I'm just like, okay, early voting is going to be key. They were running out of provisional ballots, which is a whole nother issue. But it's just like, we need to make sure that if you want to vote absentee, make sure you do it early, that you get the ballots, because people were not getting their ballots either. That was a whole nother issue down here. So it's just like all of this stuff, and we vote in 5 months for the presidential like nomination and all that. So it's discouraging. Like standing there, I was like, it takes a lot to discourage me, but I was standing there like, oh my God, you foresee what's about to happen. And we gotta say bye to Patrick real quick. He's got to run. Thank you for so much.
Bye, Patrick.
Bye,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. But yes, standing there, I was just like, oh my God. Like, you see it happening in front of you, and you're just like, I don't know what to do. Like, and then just to see it continue throughout the day on Twitter and the news, and you're just like, oh my God. It was wild.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
But so it's just like and even like Keisha Lance Bottoms, who's the mayor here in Atlanta, she was even tweeting saying like, okay, get the provisional ballots, make sure you stay in line. Like, you just don't want to discourage people now in June and say, fuck that, I ain't coming back in November. I saw what happened in June. It was hot. I was out there for 5 hours. Like, you know how we get sometimes? People are like, fuck that. Like, this ain't about.
How do y'all feel about the mail-in? How did you guys feel about mail-in ballots?
I'm here for it. I really am. But I the same governor, at least in Georgia, the same person the last few years that messed up all these elections, he's going to be the one that spearheads the mail-in ballot. So it's just like, you almost feel like,
damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just like, what do I do? So I've been trying, like, I just know even on my IG and things, like trying to reach out to people. Like, I have a friend in Michigan he's in politics, and he has a couple connections here in Atlanta area that he's connecting me to. Just because I'm like, we need to be proactive now. Like, we can't wait the week before the election to be like, oh, there's going to be issues. No, like, we need to figure this shit out now. Because there's just too much at stake otherwise.
There has to be a better way. There just absolutely has to be a better way. I mean, and we can't allow them to shut us up. Right. I mean, I can't, and I hate saying, I mean, I don't live in Atlanta, so, you know, I use the word us, you know, but us as people, though, you know, when it comes to, you know, using our vote, I mean, this is exactly why I understand some of these Bernie bros who be like, fuck everything, you know, and let's burn all this shit down. Like, I get it when you have people like this inside the system that are taking advantage of it when it can be an actual fair system, you know. Right. But what about you, Dewan? How are you?
I feel like there's going to be enough people who are politically charged now who will maintain their political chargedness, even if there's issues at the polls, because this is not a new phenomenon. Every damn time we go to the polls, there's an issue, particularly in our neighborhood. So, you know, I'm not so much concerned about losing folks, but I share the same frustration. Like, I can file my taxes with HR Block in like 15 minutes, but I can't file my damn taxes and just go bloop, bloop, bloop. Like that, I don't understand that at all. And I do get that in the grand scheme of priorities of the things that we're asking for, you know, like voter reform is probably not at the top of the list, you know, but, you know, my hope is that when we get Joe in the office, because I'm putting that energy.
Yes, ma'am.
When we get him in the office and he's able to enact a lot of these other policies, hopefully he's in there enough that we could actually start enacting some, you know, some changes in our voting and registration process. And I don't know what the legalities of all that shit is, you know, like if there's, and maybe this is my civics, you know, like a civics education, like, is it something that's state driven, state funded, and therefore the federal government doesn't have the capability of intervening in this kind of way? Or is this, you know, is it something? So it's, you know, but I guess all I'm saying is that I'm optimistic that, you know, between COVID, people that were already pissed off about, you know, 2016 and the idiot in the office right now, you know, all the shit that's going on right now and so many other issues, you know, that people are fired up, and I'm optimistic that that'll maintain. And I just think that when we get our man in the office, then we have to be on that neck. We have to be on their neck about this stuff, because as soon as he gets in the office, you know, we're going to have another, you know, string of voting happening that following November, you know, for Senate seats and local things. So, you know, we just need to make it a priority.
You know what I'm going to play when I roll up to the I'm probably gonna do early.
You about to lose your job. You about to lose your job. Hey,
literally, that is my bop of the year. I'm playing that all year to Trump. You about to lose your job. Detaining me. phone nothing. That is the energy I am on the remainder of this year. Woo!
Yes. No, it's funny. I was talking with some of the people that I'm helping organize a protest for Juneteenth here.
Juneteenth.
Yes.
I'm taking that day off.
I took it off too.
Week, I'm like, I'm taking this shit off.
Yep. Yeah, I took it off too because we're doing a protest in March here in Seattle, and so I'm helping me and about 20 other people from Seattle. We're organizing this protest rally march for Juneteenth,
nice.
And Justice for Black Lives in Seattle. What I was telling them was like, we got to make sure that this song is played throughout the whole thing. Hey, just
you are detaining me for
yes.
nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I love me some us. I really do. Even in the worst situations.
We're conditioned. We conditioned. We ain't had no choice but to figure out a way to, better a situation to keep a smile on our face. And I just love just how quick and how creative we are, especially with times now, to continue to do that. It's just been absolutely, absolutely amazing to see.
And I love the TikTok community too, sticking up for the Black creators, because when a lot of the George Floyd thing was first happening, TikTok actually, and obviously we know it's a Chinese company that owns TikTok, had taken the Black Lives Matter hashtag away.
Yeah,
and it was a lot of our white allies, our white creative allies, that were speaking up for us to get that hashtag back, which is ridiculous that they took that away. And then B, to speak up for the Black creatives that are on TikTok, because a lot of the stuff that goes viral is from the Black creatives that are on TikTok right now. So it was cool to see a lot of the white allies on that particular app sticking up for the Black creatives.
Another reason that made me okay with not being on TikTok. I had downloaded it so we can do the cool off challenge, and I deleted that bitch real quick once I saw it. I was like, yep, there was a reason why my spirit was not moved. And this was the reason I'm being too. And I'm that way too, because apparently there's articles going around saying that Facebook is going to be somehow working with Trump, the Trump campaign and stuff like that.
An old article. It was from 2016. It's an old article, but somehow, for some reason, it's making its rounds. So whenever you see it, whenever you see it, take a look at the article date, because a lot of people are just and the picture of what's his face that owns Facebook.
Mark Zuckerberg, is that his name?
Yes. It's like he's 12. So when you see it, just check the date. Just check the date and just let them know that this was from 2016. It had already been squashed. It is not something that he's doing right now.
Yeah, I hadn't, and that's why I hadn't read it. Yeah, because I hadn't read it, and I was like, "Fuck, I'm gonna have to give up Facebook." But
I thought the same. I wasn't mad about Facebook. I was mad about Instagram. I was like, "Damn, I'm gonna have to give up Instagram."
Right.
But I would listen. If you do, it's a wrap.
The Russians are back already. A lot of the recent stuff for the Black Lives Movement, some of the more viral stuff that's been coming out the last week, they are finding have been created once again, like in 2016, by newly formed accounts, things that it was just hard for them to track, and then it just came to a stop. So please, community, do your due diligence. It's hard for us for the stuff posted and things like that to make sure that, okay, this is legit. They either said it, they didn't say it, whatever it may be, because the Russians are back. They are literally.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, but if you go into the comments of a lot of some of these things that are viral, people are actually calling the bots out. They're actually calling them out. Oh, did you really come up with that all by yourself, bot? They are calling them out. And it's good. But at the same time, it's still just bringing attention to the wrong kind.
Right. Because there's so many people out there that don't do their due diligence and actually you pointed out the articles from 2016, I haven't looked at the article, but typically when I do see something, I do see when was this article posted, et cetera, like that. And also just making sure that it's an actual legitimate, source, for real too, because because anyone can post a personal blog and then retweet a story of their personal blog and then get a conversation started out of nothing,
And to that point, I've stopped forwarding a lot of pictures, because there are a lot of pictures that are floating around that have been doctored. Yeah. And even though it serves my anger and serves my frustration and it serves all those things, me just forwarding something on and I don't know where the source of that thing came from, like I'm no better than somebody that's spreading false information. So be careful about what you're taking, what you're sharing. Just check your sources to make sure that it's right before you send something off.
Or you were about to lose your job.
Hey, for real though.
Y'all see the NFL apologize to Colin? Well, kinda.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wouldn't even say it was an apology
to them not believing him, kind of thing.
Right.
They really didn't apologize to him.
No,
and he's still jobless, like he's still unemployed. So, but what do you think about that? Is it more optics? Do you feel they actually were like, damn, my bad? But there's still more they need to do. Like,
it's optics again. It's totally optics because once again, we have a large movement about Black Lives Mattering. And when Colin started, that was the whole purpose of it. And so many of our people and people in general started boycotting the NFL, and their ratings went to shit that first year it started happening. And some people finally started coming back the second year because they were making some of these fake ass, not real apologies, but again, they're well aware that it's June. The NFL season is supposed to start in fucking August and like 2 fucking months for preseason, like they have to. And then on top of that, because this movement is so much more bigger too, there are now so many more athletes who play that are being vocal too and just not taking that shit anymore too. So now that they have so many players who like, okay, I'm okay with saying fuck this job because you're saying fuck my life. Now they got people who be like, fuck a paycheck. And now they know they're losing the control. So now they have to make we got to make sure the people are okay. Because if our audience is okay, that means our players are going to be okay. It's all optics. Optics. I'm still boycotting. Been boycotting from the jump. Ain't seen a single one. Ain't seen a single game since then. Not even the Super Bowl. I watched last year in Palm Springs just to see J-Lo and Shakira. Okay, I've only seen the Super Bowl halftime show.
I'm with you. I haven't watched football since, except the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, and even then, it's just like half-ass watching until the halftime show. So what were you about to say, Dewan?
No, it's interesting that this is happening right now because they don't have anything to lose right now. Yeah, you're right. So it's easy for them to come out with a statement saying that we support and blah blah blah, but because you don't have anything to lose. But when the season was in effect, and you had all these marketing ads that were paying your bills and whatnot, it was a different story. So it's like I would like to see where is the action, because I think what we're starting to see, what's giving me hope right now, and what I'm seeing when I'm looking at people's conversations is not just like the rhetoric about Black Lives Matter, but like people are actually calling people to carpet. Like I love that Serena Williams' husband,
Alexis.
Thank you. Dropped out as a board member of, he dropped out as a board member and
the company that he said founded.
Right.
That's crazy.
And with the expression that my hope is that they fill this seat with a Black person, not a person of color, a Black person. And so like that's the kind of action, that's the kind of action that I'm hopeful that we will see both in the NFL, because Black people specifically have been locked out of ownership positions and leadership positions within the NFL. And listen, I'm not an NFL guy, but at the end of the day, if 99.9% of all the activities are driven by people that are white in power, and you don't have a seat at the table,
especially when you're making all your money off of us.
Come on now. So I'm hopeful that we keep this energy, for all these people that are saying Black Lives Matter, whatnot. Let's hope that you don't lose that when all the Black people are on the field, trying to entertain your ass.
And that's another reason why, again, too, because like a lot of this stuff, a lot of these sporting events aren't going to have people in the crowds. Like right now, there's no real way for them to do that. So at this point, again, I honestly think it goes to optics of making people feel like, well, from their homes, they'll be okay watching. I'll say this: I'll fucking watch golf and NASCAR before I watch the NFL. And I say this because although we aren't prominent, in those two sports, at least I can say that I've seen them making strides as an organization. Like, for instance, NASCAR removing all Confederate flags, you know, from NASCAR. Like, you see these sporting organizations moving with the times and making the necessary changes. And you see the NFL being like, no, we're still old, white, and racist. Fuck you.
Give Colin this, like, I think, honestly, the only thing that would make me consider watching the NFL at this point still is if they came out and got Colin a job. And they
Absolutely.
did it, and they did it publicly.
Yeah.
Like, they, like, didn't dictate everything. They let his team dictate it, that, you know, and it wasn't like a hush-hush behind the scenes and we just, I don't know where Colin has a job. Nope. I want to see how you did it. I want to see how much he's getting paid. I want to see everything, because I don't want the optics to be solely for the NFL. Let Colin come back. Woo! No, I want Colin to benefit from this way more than the NFL. Like, fuck the NFL at the end of the day. And honestly, I don't even know if Colin really wants to or not, but if he wants to, pay him what you owe him. I want him to get everything.
I don't see a real clear way of bringing him back in without it being still possibly shady. You know, like, I can see, like, if he got a job, I'm still gonna sit there and be like, now how much does the NFL pay that team to have money to hire him? You know what I'm saying?
Actually, I think there's an opportunity. I think there's actually an opportunity for a new football league to be created.
Well, there was one last season, and
the AFL, the AFL,
XFL,
I think that there's an opportunity. I mean, if you look at the momentum that Black Lives Matter is making, and and the fact that there are people that are putting their money with, you know, like, people that are celebrities and companies are reallocating funds specifically for, you know, the Black community. So, you know, whereas there might not have been as much funding to be able to afford to entice people who have pretty lucrative, you know, contracts with the NFL, there might be an opportunity now starting to open up where, you know, we can have another kind of league that affords the opportunity for visibility for.
And that's what the XFL was. Like, if you look into the XFL, you'll see, like, there are a lot of celebrities who are part owners of a lot of these.
It was, like, founded by Vince McMahon. So that's the hard part of it too. Because I was like,
true.
So that's what I'm saying. There is an opportunity. Right. This is an opportunity to create something new.
Right. But I mean, going on the XFL though, like, I went to 2 games here for the Seattle team that they have for the XFL, and seeing how they were all, like, they were so much more about the community than I felt the Seattle Seahawks actually were. Like, they had players actually coming out into the neighborhoods, the community, giving away free tickets and stuff like that. Like, I think Dewan's correct. Like, if people focus and put their money more there than the NFL, I'll bet you, because money talks, and you know the best way to get them white people to move up the ass is start taking their coins up. Where my money at? As what was it, the show DuckTales, when Scrooge, all of his money was gone, he's like, oh, what the fuck going on with my money? Then he started fucking acting right.
That is true. And I will give the NBA props. Like, as the NBA over the years have progressed and allowed the players to have more voice, they've been a lot more progressive than any other, at least American sports league, of listening to their players, being in the community, promoting Black culture. So I'm all NBA all day. They're back. They're going to be down in Orlando.
I can't wait. I'll watch.
Because they're bringing the NBA back to Orlando, and they're bringing the MLS, the soccer league, to Orlando as well. So I'm like, that's a shit ton of people to be in one, like, little compound. It's not a little, it's a massive compound. I'm like, okay, if you're gonna bring 2 pretty big leagues to one area, that's a lot of people to try to social distance and contain and things. And we've already
I can't wait to hear about. I can't wait to hear about the gay athletes that come out of all this shit. You know, because you put them all together in one area.
That's,
you know, those ain't out yet. Don't hear that. A lot of them straights gonna hear about that grinding noise real quick.
Let me see if I can tell this story. Hold on, let me think. I'm trying to think who's listening to the podcast. But I would just say, in a professional environment, I have heard that noise. I won't say where in my life. I've heard that noise at work. And obviously, as a gay man, I'm like, who that? I'll just put it there. Anyway, every gay person know that noise. Oh man, but anyway, and you know what we forgot to say? Subscribe. That's way like an hour and a half ago. Subscribe.
Oh girl, yeah, we a whole hour and a half in.
Subscribe, hit the bell, hit the like button, please. Thank you. We're trying to grow our YouTube presence. An hour and a half in. But anything else? I don't know. We're kind of towards the end. Anything else on your hearts and minds?
Two things. Yeah. I think it's worth having a brief conversation about RuPaul and how noticeably quiet he has been, and World of Wonder Productions has been in the midst of all the stuff that's been going on. Primarily they have been very quiet on the scandal within their own house. So I don't know if you guys follow, any of the RuPaul Drag Race or watch it or whatever.
But that show don't catch me up.
But if you guys remember, there was a big scandal that happened at the beginning of the season in February when they announced the new cast. That Sherry Pie, and I think we talked about it on the podcast. Sherry Pie, who is a contestant. There was a whole. Once it was announced, there was a news article that came out where a couple individuals here in New York came forward that she had basically catfished them into doing a lot of sexual things on camera and had sent them like steroids so that they could like beat themselves up for roles and have them take pictures of themselves and masturbate on camera and blah, 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 blah. A whole bunch of things that she did. She basically pretended that she was a casting agent who was casting for a hush hush project on Broadway. And because Sherry Pie, I don't remember what his non-professional name is, was in that world and connected with that world, he wrote up like scripts that he would send to people, had a whole like email address and all this, and did all this catfishing electronically.
Right. And
so this had been going on for years, and apparently it was a well-known secret amongst the New York crowd because the community just knows. But then when she got on the show, then it became public, and so that's when they stripped her from a lot of the show. They did a lot of re-editing, and then they said that she won't be back in the finale. The finale happened. They had 2 finale episodes. They had the reunion show, and then they had the actual finale. And during the entire season, the show had posted a disclaimer, particularly about this thing, and never once really
they didn't talk
vilified or vilified or said that this is like the wrong thing that you should, like they never really spoke out against it. They just said, there are a lot of people that put a lot of hard work and energy into, the season, and we didn't know about this. So, out of respect for those who put their craft on to make this production work, we're going to air the season, but Sherry Pie's not going to be in a finale. But neither through this entire thing did they talk about sexual predator behavior, the fact that this was amoral and wrong. And so that's one. And then two, they've been eerily quiet on all things Black Lives Matters.
I don't watch much RuPaul. So I don't know if I don't have a lot of personal like credibility behind what I'm about to say. I just go off of what I feel and what I've read and seen here and there. From what I've gathered of RuPaul, and I think it's another reason why I have not gravitated at all towards RuPaul Drag Race, is I've seen and heard so many stories about the inequality and injustice to a lot of the Black drag queens that's gone on and just people of color. I've heard and seen lots of articles that people speak on how she's very pro the white queens and marketing them and getting them at DragCon and, trying to milk that dollar even when it comes to like All-Stars. So I've I've heard and seen things from however long she's been doing this, that she really wasn't, that vocal for, our people from the get-go. And I think that's what really has stopped me. So I'm not surprised to hear you say this at all, Dewan. I'm just kind of like, huh, So what I heard and what I've seen, you know, via Facebook, yeah, like lines up. Like just another person adding to everything that I've already.
It's a duck, Maury. Maury is a duck.
Right. you know, but it's sad.
It's kind of sad. And like, I know, and I will give her credit, she did address Black Lives Matter in like 2016 in an actual live interview and things like that, which I was surprised because before that she hadn't.
Damn, 4 years ago.
But I'm just saying.
Right.
It's a whole new decade.
I'm surprised she did even in 2016 is my point. So, and what she said then, her reaction was like, I grew up and knew not to fuck with the police. Like, that's what my parents taught me. That's what my community taught me growing up. So that's why you ain't see me talk about nothing about no police, because I don't fuck with them. Okay, I get it. This is the part where, as people have platforms, and I forget, I feel like we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I forget where we laid on it, but it's just like, I feel sometimes, especially RuPaul, she's the top drag queen, she's the top in her field, and you are Black. So even if you don't want to, you got to somehow, some way, even if it's not the most grandiose thing out there. Maybe you ain't out there protesting, you ain't out there buying from Black businesses, whatever, but at least at the bare minimum, you should put on your IG something about it, put on your social media something about it, and maybe on your show put a commercial or a little caveat before the episode starts. And that's the problem, where I'm just like, you have this huge platform that we're looking out to you for, and even if you don't know what to say right now, say that. Like, that's what I always tell like a lot of my white friends now. I'm like, I get you might not have the right words right now. I don't have the right words right now. But saying nothing is not an option. Because
I feel like it's very much
saying nothing says a lot.
Exactly. There's volume in silence. Absolutely. It kind of reminds me too of like a little bit like Trina's comment that she made like a week and a half ago too, about on her new podcast or show. She made a comment about like, you know, they shouldn't be doing all this rioting, and you know, if someone's gonna roll up on me, I got my papers, I'm gonna pull up and I'm gonna use my gun and all this other stuff. And you know, it was very like tone deaf, and it just kind of made me think like, you know what, you've been rich too long. You've been rich for so long that you forgot how Black you is, you know. And I feel like Ru is probably kind of along the same.
Apparently, she's not the baddest bitch.
You know, like apparently you know you've been focused on your coin so much you forgot where you come from and who you are.
Because Ru was like lived in Atlanta forever. Like she know that she's been through some things because she's damn near 60. So she's lived through a lot of stuff that we're still dealing with, you know.
And let's not fool ourselves. The fact of the matter is, in RuPaul's place, she has people around her.
That part too.
Like she has a whole fucking social media team that it's not like, you know, oh, this is just like, you know, our next door neighbor that just happens to also have a drag show. No, she has a whole multi-million-dollar empire, you know, of people that work on her team that drive her social media and all this other stuff. So you don't have, you specifically, RuPaul, James, Charles, whatever, you don't have to have the words yourself, because guess what? 9 times out of 10, the words are put in your mouth anyway by somebody else writing them.
Wait, what we say? You always need Tyrone the intern.
Okay, Tyrone the intern, for real. I mean, it's true, and the fact that you have a firsthand experience being a person, being Black too. Like, there's no reason why you should not understand. You have a front row ticket and seats, like exactly, because it's about you too.
And you know what? It might even be, and this is not giving her a pass at all. A lot of times, what happens is we so aspire in the Black community to make it, to get wealth, to be rich, to live this American dream, even though the American dream is a white dream, that once you get there, you're so scared, as I drool myself, I just had a starburst, you're so scared to lose that. And you lose perspective, like you were saying, you might not have the people around you and things like that, and you're so scared to say the wrong thing to take away this American quote unquote dream. And I think going forward at this tipping point for the Black community, we need to aspire to ourselves. We need to look within our community because we're magical. We're kings and queens. We don't need to look up to their American dream and be scared that they are going to take it away from us, because they can't take your magic away from you. And I think that Ru might be one of those people that is so out of touch because she still wants to hold on to whatever this quote unquote American dream, because she's worked her ass off. I give her that. She has worked her ass off all the career to get to this pinnacle now. However, there comes responsibility with that. She's the one that even says shit like that. So it's just like, if you're in that spot, you're going to have to speak up if you want to or not. I don't give a damn.
Right? Like, doesn't she? I mean, like, well, one of my favorite lines of the Kanye that I like, you know, the only Kanye that I will still listen to, the old Kanye. But, you know, like, even when he says the line, he goes, even if you in a Benz, you're still a nigga. You know, like,
and a coupe.
And a coupe, you know, like, for real. Like, it's real talk. Like, don't get caught up chasing the white man's dream that you start thinking that you are on a whole different plane. And we can see that Kanye got caught up in his own damn words, because look at him fucking around with these Kardashians, you know, like, and Ru says on the end of her show, like, if you can't love yourself, how the hell you gonna love somebody else? Like, how are you right? Like, how are you telling that to people at the end of your shows, but you can't speak up on your own black ass? Like, she don't love herself. She needs some milk. She needs some milk.
Oh man. So yeah. So hopefully she speaks up soon, because it is rubbing me the wrong way. And she's not the only one. There's quite a few people, but
I like the fact that we're in a space. I do like the fact that we're in a space where we're starting to call attention to the people that are quiet. That's all. Like, we're not just like letting that shit slide by. Like, no, even if you don't feel that you have a responsibility right now, we're calling you out, because because at the end of the day, if you're not going to ride with us, then we're not going to rock with you.
You preach it.
I will say, this is hard for me to say these words because y'all know how I feel about this, but I am having a moment and I'm trying to be nice. I will say it has been nice to see white gays this Pride Month be way more vocal about the facts of them not having their rights if it wasn't for a Black and a Latino trans woman. This has probably been the first Pride Month since I've come out in 2006 when I've heard and seen so many gay white men be vocal. Like,
100%.
It's actually warmed my heart. However, comma.
Okay,
now,
that part was like this, and now it's
like, got the strings. I'm gonna put some strings on that part.
However, comma, I'm gonna let it be known right now. I'm gonna read each and every one of you bitches that I see posting now, because it's performative versus real. Okay, let it be known. Let me see Pride Month 2021. You ain't still speaking the same energy, we gonna be beefing. Like we talked in the back and the Ask Your Auntie. We will be beefing. We will be beefing. That's where my line is, real quick. And we need to continue to hold people accountable, because don't do it because that's what everyone else is doing. Do it because you fucking mean it.
Right.
And do it and change your heart and mindset from the root.
But you know what? I will take it. Even if your heart ain't in it, I will take the extra voice.
No, I don't want it.
I'll take it.
I don't want it.
I'll take it, y'all. Y'all keep speaking up. Y'all keep sending your
I don't do fake
posts.
I can't see. And the thing is, to me, it's just so fake and ingenuine if they're doing it just because other people are doing it, and they're doing it because they don't want to get read to filth by the actual people of color that they know. Like, if you don't mean it, don't fucking say it. Just be the racist bigot that you are. But don't lie and hide behind the fact that everyone else is doing it so people can't call you out for who you are. Just be real. Be real. Be real. If you're a fucking hater, be a fucking hater so I can smack you in your face.
I hear
until it comes to existence is what I
say. I hear what you're saying, but I will take your fakery and your fuckery as long as it gets me the equality that I need. So if they fake whatever, and then I get the stuff that I need, and then they go back to being an asshole, but I still have the stuff that I need.
See, and that goes back to my beef earlier. It's just like, keep it moving. Like there's a goal, you know, and it's just like, okay, be fake over there then. Okay, bye.
Well, see, this, and that's
the next goal, you know.
And that's why I said, like, if I see this in 2020, because our goal is not going to be accomplished in 2020. It's not going to be accomplished in 2020. Like, this is a marathon, like we said last episode. It's going to be a long time. Yeah. So I want to see these same white gay men throughout the whole journey. If now, like what you said, I agree with you guys. If we get to our destination and they just want to be like, all right, I did what I need to do, cool, because we got the results. I actually agree with that. But if they stop before we get there, hell no. No. All this shit means nothing if you stop before we reach our destination.
Can I just say a thank you? And I'm sure we all mean this for everybody. I just want to say thank you for all the allies that are out there.
Yes.
Black, white, brown, whatever,
Native American,
whatever your orientation
yep.
is, whatever your nationality is, whatever country that you're in. You know, one of the things that's helped me has been seeing this outpour of people who are also enraged and infuriated and frustrated and angry and are sharing and posting and demonstrating their support. You know, my neighbors downstairs have participated in Black Lives Matter marches here in in Manhattan. I'm not doing that shit. I ain't trying to get sick. I ain't trying to be around all them people. I will protest from my apartment. I will spend my dollars, but when there's crowds, I'm not there. But I just want to say thank you. It means a lot. And even though we don't say it, and I know I've been not as responsive to a lot of people that have reached out and whatnot, you know, I want you to be encouraged to continue doing so. We need it. You know, a lot of us are just tired and exhausted and frustrated and whatever, you know, but I want to say thank you because it means a lot.
Definitely.
I agree. Absolutely. Like that message that Tammy sent us, that Kerel, that you screenshotted, like that was very motivating. Like just to have that love. It's been refueling me, honestly, to keep going to these protests.
And I responded to them yesterday and forgot to just now again. There's one, check our email. There's one for you, Jerrell, that from our last episode that someone sent.
Oh, wow. I have to check that out. Look, I don't think people be listening to me. I just be loud. I just be talking. So I'm surprised to hear you say that. I'm like, what?
You know. And maybe we kind of almost ended on this. Like I posted something today, so last week, where an ally said, unlearning white supremacy isn't Instagrammable. It's deeply personal, it's existential, and it's difficult work. It often feels horrible. It will make you cry. You might become depressed. It can be very lonely and isolating. It will shatter your ego and your belief system. Do it anyway. And I thought that tweet literally from Sonia Gupta summarized it so perfectly that and even with us within the Black Lives Matters, like going through this, even though we've been prepared a lot of our lives, so it's kind of more of a shock to maybe our white allies, but the sheer amount of this right now has been so draining. But we got to do it anyway.
Yep.
Like we have no other option because it's the marathon, like we said last week, and we want our nieces, our nephews. Hopefully, we can enjoy it in our later years of the work that we're putting in now. So,
this ain't a weekend thing. Like I've been seeing a lot of posts that are reminding people that the sit-ins at the drugstore countertop, the lunchtime sit-ins, happened for years. You know, like the bus tours going around from taking protesters from city to city went for like 387 days. Like this is not this is a thing that we're going to be doing for the month of June and then it's going to be done and over with. This is for the long haul.
Get your sneakers ready, get your 6-inch heels ready, get your combat boots
I legit
ready.
just bought me some Dr. Scholl's.
Your gloves if you're going out.
I just bought me some Dr. Scholl's shoe inserts for this from the protesting and marching.
That used to be my old job. We used to make that.
Really? Because literally 7 blocks away from where I live, they're protesting every day. They actually just the police just actually vacated their precinct. It'll be a week ago now when this episode airs. But the police are now out of that precinct, and now what they started doing is they have now started showing movies and stuff like that too, that also, teach the racial equality and stuff like that as well too on the streets. And someone brought a projector and they're putting up sheets and stuff like that. So they're shutting this down. They're like, you know what? They got they got first aid They got people bringing pop-up grills and providing food and water and all
they
sorts of stuff. But they turning up. They turning up over there. It's like, it's so legit just to see. And I think that's another reason why we were so encouraged to do our protest and rally in March for Juneteenth, which would be this Friday after this episode airs. Because again, it's important what even Juneteenth, represents and stands for, what a lot of people don't understand or know about unless you're in the Black community.
Get to know.
Can I just do a quick public service announcement?
Go for it.
We got a minute, 30 seconds.
For anybody that's buying Black Lives Matter t-shirts or any kind of Black t-shirts, please make sure and check that you're purchasing from a Black-owned business. Do not be spending your money trying to enrich white people off of the pain of Black people. So please,
from a Black business that I got on today.
I bought 4 t-shirts this week. 4 t-shirts this week from Black-owned businesses. So please just do your due diligence to check. It may be cute on Instagram, but if it's going to some white person's pocket that's in Minnesota, you need to
let it go.
Supporting the Black community with your dollars.
HBCUs need your donations big time right now. They were already struggling before COVID. They were struggling before a lot of the protesting and everything. If you're looking to spend money somewhere, HBCUs need your donations as well. So
every little bit helps.
Definitely. So subscribe, share with your family. Thank you for listening. Patrick, thank you.
Yes, that was so good.
AunTea Margarita.
Margarita, huh?
And check out Scales too.
Check out Scales. So until next week, enjoy yourself. Wash your hands, wash your legs, wash your ass. Grab your mask. Happy Pride, bitch.
Bye, y'all. Oh, wig party.
Wig party what? June what?
27th?
June 27th. We got a couple weeks. June the 27th.
So look on that on social media.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.